Picture this: a young man aged just 18, staring through a sniper's scope in the Finnish wilderness. His goal: to learn precision, focus, and discipline. Now picture this same man tearing down Formula One tracks at 200 miles per hour, carving up his opponents to win 10 Formula One races. Sounds like a Hollywood movie, but this wasn't scripted. It is reality. Meet Valtteri Bottas, Formula One's most underrated driver. This is how mandatory military service transformed Bottas into a Formula One race winner. And as a bonus, Bottas is returning to the grid. But for whom?
With Valtteri, he deserves a race seat, and hopefully that door is going to open, and just watch this space.
Unless you're new to Formula One, you already know who Valtteri Bottas is. He is the Finnish driver who looks more like an Aussie, and now spends his days riding his bicycle when not advising George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Yet, the Finnish driver is more than just a daredevil on track. He also excels in the wilderness, perhaps even considered a man's man. From the outside, it probably doesn't look like it, but Bottas began his racing adventures at the age of 6, turning to karting like many of his peers. He quickly progressed through the ranks in the early to late 90s, following in the footsteps of two former Finnish stars, Mika Häkkinen and Kimi Räikkönen. But following his graduation from the Junior Formula in 2007, the Finnish star didn't just focus on his racing career. Bottas understood the value of a good education. He'd go on to study automotive engineering, eventually earning his stripes as an automotive mechanic. During this same period, he was also competing in Formula Renault Euro Cup, impressing scouts all over the world. But one thing that is still mandatory in Finland for men is to complete military training. For Valtteri Bottas, no exceptions were made. The Finn had to go through the same training, which has a minimum serving period of 165 days for new conscripts. But this can be up to 347 days for those who want to become officers. So, Bottas enlisted. Now, when you look at Valtteri Bottas, the man himself looks a far cry from what you'd think of when you see a professional military sniper. Yet, Bottas spent 2008 and 2009 as an active member of the Finnish army. During this same time, he was actively racing as well, which helped cut down his mandatory service time to just 6 months. Bottas had the following to say: "Because I was racing, I only had to do 6 months. But in 6 months of Finnish winter, I became a sniper. I was a good shot. That's why they made me kind of a sniper." This sounds like a massive distraction from a racing career, especially when his peers like Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez focused solely on racing before becoming some of the top drivers in the world. In fact, Bottas wasn't just given basic training, and by his own account, he said that he was trained to infiltrate, exfiltrate, and even operate behind enemy lines. Moreover, the Finn still finished P3 in the Formula 3 Euro Series, which took place directly following his service. But the question I bet all of you have is how military training helped Bottas in his racing career. And do you think military training should be mandatory for Formula One drivers to eliminate all the crybabies? Let me know in the comments below.
Okay, Lewis, Valtteri's going to let you past into turn 1. You can go strap mode 3. Ferraris are just up ahead.
Claims he's faster, claims he's had a brilliant car all the way through this.
We all know Bottas was the greatest teammate anyone could ask for. He let Lewis Hamilton win races that should have been added to his record, while sacrificing himself for Mercedes more times than I can count. Yet, Bottas never complained. He just continued pushing, using every opportunity to his advantage.
First time ever, Valtteri Bottas wins the Grand Prix! It's Bottas who takes it in Russia!
Valtteri even attributes this to his time spent in the military, where he said the following: "When you're tired and sleeping in the freezing forest, it's not fun, but it teaches you teamwork, self-discipline, and how to respect the little things in life." This teamwork and self-discipline provided the restraint Bottas used throughout his career, especially when everyone, including the Mercedes factory, seemed like they were only looking out for Lewis. Moreover, Bottas still won 10 races. He took pole position 20 times and had 67 appearances on the podium. This sounds like the stats of someone who could perhaps one day have been a Formula One champion. But life didn't have the same plans for the Finnish star. So, what is Bottas doing now, and how has the military helped him in life? Following a stint at Mercedes, Bottas switched to Sauber, essentially following in the footsteps of Kimi Räikkönen. This lasted a couple of years before stepping back from the sport, finally earning a spot as the reserve driver for Mercedes. He has had quite an average stint in rally racing, winning the Paul Ricard-based rally circuit Côte d'Azur, while mainly just finishing the other races and occasionally snagging a podium. However, off the track is where things become more interesting. Bottas owns part of an ice hockey team called Lahti Pelicans. He has a stake in the coffee business with Kahiwa Coffee Roasters, while he and his wife are also the owners of a gin brand, Oath. But perhaps his biggest accomplishment off the track is in the world of cycling. Valtteri has a massive affinity for cycling, even co-founding FNLD GRVL, a local gravel racing event held in Finland. However, this is not just a hobby, with various reports during his time racing in F1, showing Bottas taking his time away from the track to tackle cycling events around the world. This ambition and drive haven't just kept him in shape, but led the Finn to enter the UCI Gravel World Championships in Flemish Brabant, Belgium. The overall event was won by star cyclist Mathieu van der Poel, but Bottas still finished in 134th place out of 233 participants. Yes, he didn't achieve the same level of success with cycling as motor racing, but it shows the dual talents of the Finnish driver. And when he is not competing in competitive sports, the Finnish driver is actively involved in philanthropy, hosting the Valtteri Bottas Duathlon in Finland each year, the goal of which is to raise funds for charity. But now, Bottas could be eyeing a return to the grid, a shocking move that could finally turn him into a team leader. I'm sure you are aware that a new team is making its debut in Formula One. This is none other than Cadillac, an American-owned manufacturer with tons of money to back it up. The only problem is that none of the big-name drivers are available, and the only American on the grid, Logan Sargent, is probably not the best pick when you are aiming for success. So, reports recently suggest that Bottas could be heading back to the grid, this time in the colors of Cadillac. His rumored partner will more than likely be Sergio Perez, meaning that two drivers who made a name for being perfect teammates could now be the future of Cadillac. This isn't his only option for 2026. In fact, Alpine only has one driver confirmed for next year, and this is as expected, Pierre Gasly. However, the other side of the garage is still in shambles, with the French manufacturer still seeking to add a driver to the second seat. But with Bottas being one of the only drivers who actively participates in testing events, fans might see the Finn return to the grid for Alpine. It will be a shocking move, but as Toto Wolff remarked, Bottas is just as fast, if not faster than Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. Age is the only drawback. So, do you see Valtteri Bottas in Formula One for the 2026 season? Does the Finnish driver still have something to give to the sport? And do you think that if every driver had to undergo military training, we'd see a lot less moaning on track? Let me know in the comments below, and please remember to smash that subscribe button.